a simple question. Has Facebook, is Facebook the dominant design in social media?
Yes.
And what's the reason for that? Number of users, network effects.
I wouldn't say it's number of users because I think it just started out only being accessible to college students, and I think they grew it the right way and added the right features over time. Because back then, you know, your other alternative was MySpace, and I was never interested in MySpace. It just seemed too disorganized and too big crowd of people that were on it wasn't in line with, you know, who I wanted to be connected with. So like the way Facebook grew over time has made it become the dominant design.
Right, so what's Google trying to do with Google Plus? Why is it paranoid? Why is Google paranoid? Is it paranoid, or is Google just trying to play catch up to Facebook because there are almost 1 billion people are on Facebook, and the more they are on Facebook, the less they will be on Google?
Yes, and probably most of these things, I think, well, has to do with search. I mean, Google is like the king of search, and that many of the searches that have been produced on the net has to do with referrals. I mean, how do you know that some links or some pages in the internet are relevant to what you're searching for? Is many of those cases are because somebody recommended this to you, and this is the power of social networks, actually, because if you combine the likes of people, I mean, this is a technology which is called social search, which actually Google started introducing, and Facebook, of course, because it's a social network, has the reach. I mean, knows what people like, because it has already the databases, all the information about it, putting ads according to what people are browsing on the net. Google cannot, I mean, doesn't have this information on its own, so the creation of Google Plus, I think, is going towards this, I mean, towards gathering social information and including it within the search that Google currently doesn't have. In the case of Twitter, it's actually a bit different, because Twitter, I think it's even, Twitter is like the king of real-time search.
Yes.
So I mean, Google cannot even get there.
Twitter is selling its search results to Google, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to make some money.
Google tried to do something, they couldn't, so they had to hire Twitter, and now they got reach an agreement with some results.
Is Twitter social media?
It's a social network, but it's working more as a way to understand in real time what people want. I mean, you put any term, any keyword on Twitter, and you will find what people are talking about, what is item. So you can find real time feedback.
By a show of hands, can I know how many of you have a Twitter account? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Never used it. Just have
You
it.
don't have, okay.
I have a bunch of accounts that I never use because I just want to know.
Because it's hard to get followers. You have to follow and then follow you back, right?
I
Never
have a hard
interested.
time
I just
using
didn't want to
general.
know how to use it.
Say that again?
I have a hard time using Twitter in general. I've like tried to do it and like follow people, and I don't get any updates. I don't know. I'm just like a Twitter reject. I just can't figure it out.
Okay, it's not that hot yet.
Huh?
Well, it's being used by, I think, professionals who are grinding, who don't make any money. They want followers if they want to do a retreat. I have used it in the past, and it's like a hard thing to do, but it's more as a business use than as a social thing. At least personally, if I want to upload what my son does in his school band, I upload it either as a picture on Facebook or as a video on YouTube, and then link the YouTube link to Facebook, because that's where my friends from India are, who are really serious about what's going on in America. That's how I look at Facebook. And I never trusted Google too much, but what's happening is if you use a Google Picasa, just throwing an idea out, they will say, oh, anybody can tag you in Google Plus. See, one of the problems with Facebook was privacy. They never really did a good thing with the privacy, right? You load somebody's picture and you don't share it correctly, and someone else tags it, and then that person says, hey, how come you did that? Right? You could infringe on someone's privacy, inadvertently pissing her off. And the same thing with Google. Google Plus talks about circles, that you could have this circle and you could have a bigger circle and you could share it with this circle and you could share that with that circle. But there is no privacy anywhere on the internet. So is Google going to be able to disrupt, or has a dominant design arrived in the form of Facebook and social media? And is Facebook stock going to come back? Yes.
Well, when I think of Google, though, in comparison with Facebook or Twitter or any other, Google has been trying to become the wholesaler, and their platform is a one-stop shop kind of thing. You know, you have email accounts, you have.
I mean, we just saw that they are making money from video. You know, the YouTube was making nothing. Now, like, you can't get past the ads. Yeah, so they have a successful ad strategy,
Yeah.
which Facebook does not. What will it take Facebook to be successful in the ad strategy, given the fact that the world is moving to the iPad and the iPhone and the smaller handheld, where do you want to see the picture of your friend or do you want to see the ad? It's a challenge. They have not solved that yet, right? So is Facebook the dominant design in social media when it comes to business? Yes, Sam.
I think so, because, I mean, dominant design doesn't mean that they own all the market. It means that they have the design itself, which is prevalent. So, I mean, you know, the LinkedIn thing, it's the same sort of idea. There's a picture of you with a thing about you where people can, I don't know if people can leave messages or not, but the design itself is really the same. And you could, I think you can even say that YouTube is in a lot of ways the same. It's, you know, there's a message board and there's something that you put up that you can send links to, and you can, I think there's groups you can have, and you can follow people on it. So I think it is the dominant design, even though it's...
Who? YouTube or Facebook?
I would say Facebook, assuming they came out with it first, but that whatever that system is, where it's sort of a picture of you and the ability to leave messages and things, that's the design in my eyes. And whoever created that first, I imagine it's Facebook, is probably the dominant design. But that design itself, I think, is dominant.
There is some truth to that, actually, that Facebook did come up with a nice way to put your face on your comments, the way they designed it, and Google Plus has tried to, in my opinion, copy that, but it's there in all applications. In LinkedIn, it's very much there the same way. Yes, Chris?
Well, I think it all comes back to, like, on the business side, it's all of these companies, their primary revenue source is advertising. So however they're doing it, for Facebook, it's social media; for Google, it's search, email, and all the other services they offer. It's just their strategies to try to drive as much web traffic to their site, because the more web traffic they have, the more they're going to take into revenue on the advertising side. So I mean, it is definitely, Facebook clearly, I think, has the dominant design for social media for what it does. Google's trying to create an alternative, but not doing it very well. And additionally, the whole purpose behind it is to just keep people on Google, whether they go from search to Gmail to their calendar to whatever it is, keep them on Google product, because that's just going to generate more web traffic and thereby more ad revenue, which if they're on Facebook for 3 hours a day, Google for 10 minutes a day, that's more ad revenue for Facebook. So they're just trying to find another way to keep people on their own sites to generate more revenue. So I think Facebook does have the dominant design, but Google, through all of its services, including YouTube, is just trying to drive web traffic in whatever way it can.
Yes, one problem with Google in terms of privacy is if I load pictures and stuff, it can be very easily searched on images.google.com, just an idea. Yes, you had a point?
Yeah, I was just gonna point out that, as far as like acceptance and users, Facebook has dominant design. As far as the business side, I would say they're far off track, because while they do have like revenue producing advertisements in a way, they also lack that strongly. And I think once they introduce that, or if they do take that route, especially with the stock price the way it's been, they're gonna lose a lot of followers, because that's what the attraction of Facebook is that it's easy to navigate, you're not getting bombarded with advertisements right out the gate. I think, I don't know if that's inaccurate or not.
Okay. So, do we agree then that Facebook is the dominant design in social media, like Chris B has said, or? What does it mean to have a dominant design if I cannot have good revenue? Does Facebook have good revenue? So maybe the dominant design will emerge in the future. Maybe we are still in the pre-paradigmic phase when it comes to social media and making money off social media.
I think from that perspective, there's two different things. If you're looking at just social media, they do have a dominant design. That is the go-to standard.
They killed Friendster and they killed MySpace, yes.
Yeah, but if you're looking at it from a revenue standpoint, that's more of a new, I think that would be a new S-curve. They're still trying to figure that one out and how to integrate them both, because on the social media aspect alone, there is clearly a dominant design. If you're adding in social media that generates revenue, that's where the issue is, and that's also why the stock is tanking, because the dominant design is what drove the stock price up, not the fact that it actually had sustainable revenue.
Well, we'll look more into that when we discuss the framework of platforms, because I do want to bring this case back, whether Facebook is going to be able to keep dominating social media, or whether Google with Google Plus is going to muscle in. Because Google, remember, is not Microsoft. Whatever they do really well. And they do search well, and they might be able to do social media well. We'll come back in the second half of this class, and there will be a study guide to read. It's called What the Plus, Google Plus by Guy Kawasaki. And we are going to again analyze what's going on. I agree with you. If we take the revenue equation out, then Facebook is the dominant design. When Amazon came up with the idea that they will sell books on the internet, business school professors all over America used to come up with numbers showing how Amazon could never make money, but they have all been proven wrong. So we don't know if Facebook can get its mobile thing right, mobile ads, because people are going to look also on the mobile. How many of you, by a show of hands, check Facebook on their iPhone or iPad? Pretty much everyone except me, because I don't have the apps. Okay, so they have to get the ad strategy right for the smaller display.